Welcome back to another tips video. Today we're going to solve a problem you did not even know you had. What is the problem? Deduplication. I know you're gonna say, Nikolai, what kind of problem is that? Deduplication is a solution. It helps us eliminate duplicates, but no, I am here to tell you. Deduplication is a problem, at least in some cases. So what problem is that? We're gonna have to talk a little bit first, and then I'm gonna take you to my computer screen and actually show you the solution. So let's talk first. So let's say you process some documents and you put them into your review environment. And a client calls you up and says, hey, can you tell me how many documents we collected for this custodian? Now, you can always go to the original source data, right, where the processing happened, but sometimes it happens in multiple sets over long periods of time, so you don't really want to go in there. You're in the review environment where everything is nice, clean, and pretty. So you go to a custodian field and you say, let me see how many documents do I have, and then you go, aha, I remember. We perform global deduplication, so I cannot use a custodian field to tell you how many documents I have. So you go to All Custodians field, you filter by that, and you look at the number and you say to a client, okay, dear client, this custodian had this many documents to begin with. And the client says, why, thank you, that's very helpful. Can you tell me about this other custodian? And you do the same thing. You go to All Custodians, you change your filter, you get a document count, you tell the client, and what do they tell you? You know what? I'd like to know that for every custodian in a database, to which you go, oh, damn. All right. Problem is, there is no way to tally by custodian or all custodian field and get the number of documents per custodian. Now, that might be what you're saying is this is just one example, right? But the other query that's really popular is date range. You want to know if you got the data for your proper date range for a particular custodian, or maybe you want to graph them out. Well, in that case, you will have to do something similar where you need to use a custodian field or some kind of custodian identifier and then perform either group by, a min and max operation. And while you can do it on one custodian individually, you cannot do it in bulk. All right, so before we continue, there's going to be an exception to this. And so we need to talk about exceptions. Depends on the system you're using. Most of the systems processing and review environments are separate. You have a processing database where the documents go in, they get inventoried and they get marked, okay, original, duplicate, duplicate, original. And then when you're ready to present it for review, you take a copy of those documents, which are non-duplicates, and you transfer them into the review environment, so you don't have your duplicate documents in your review. Some systems are different. For example, Disco. The way that works, deduplication is just a view, so you can turn it on and off whenever you feel like it. So in that system, you will not have this problem. Where you will have this problem is if you, let's say, using load to process and then load to relativity. You have two distinct databases, and by looking at relativity database, you cannot run those reports that I just described. Same thing applies if you use relativity processing, because that stores data in a separate database from the actual review. Okay, now that I'm done talking, let's go to my computer screen. All right, I created this tool called ReDuplicator. Yeah, it's a very creative name. It's called ReDuplicator. And what we're going to do is import a DAT file. I'm going to click on this DAT file. It's a small subset of enron data. So what we have here is our control number, we have our group identifier, just miscellaneous fields, but more importantly, we have our custodian and we have our all custodians. So if we were to try to run, let's say, group by custodian to get a count, we wouldn't be able to do that because the whole string would be looked at together, and our custodian field would not work as well because, let's say, this custodian, well, this document was in other custodians as well. So how do we fix it? We need to configure three parameters. One, control ID number, so we're going to tell the program where the control number is. Two, we're going to tell it where custodian is. This way, whether this field is either all custodians or duplicate custodians or other custodians, it doesn't matter. If it sees the same Like this record will not be reduplicated. And then of course we need our all custodians field or other custodians or duplicate custodians, whichever way it's called in your system. We are going to assume semicolon delimited here, so that's what it is. And now we're going to click on reduplicate button. All right, looks like nothing happened, but wait, we are going to sort by control number. And now we'll see that we have just taken this first record, 126, and then we've taken a record for this custodian and pushed it down here, and this went here, and this guy went over here. So now, instead of having one record that references 4 different custodians, we have 4 records, and each one has their own custodian information, as well as date and any other fields they were duplicated as well. And just to keep things together, control number got suffixed, and we still have a same group identifier. So what can we do with this data? Let's save it to a DAT file. So I'm going to export it out, and I'm gonna call it something like _new, right? So now we can take this and we can load to like a temporary workspace for reporting, or you could take these duplicate records and just the duplicate records, and you can put them into maybe a locked folder, again, which would be like records that are hidden, but you could use for reporting. So there are lots of ways you can do it. What I think we'll do now is I'm going to change this DAT file. I'm going to search and replace delimiters to commas and quotes. And we're going to open this in Excel and see what kind of cool things we can do with this. So I'm going to take a CSV version of this. I'm going to open it up. And the first thing you'll notice here is that data is not sorted. The reason is all the duplicative records went to the bottom. This way, what you can do is cut off the records on top and just load the records from the bottom. This way you don't have to do the filtering. So if you were to choose to load this back into the workspace, right, you can load the ones with suffixes. Now we need them all. So here's what we're gonna do. Do a quick sort, make sure we are good, sorted by control number, and then everything looks good just like before. And now we can do something like insert, pivot table, and now we can take our custodian and custodian, right? And so now we can create a report of how many documents each custodian had. And then if you want to get fancy here, we can get like insert, where is insert, pivot chart, and do something like this, and bam. Now we have a chart of each custodian, like how many documents each of these custodians had originally, without having a need to go back to original process data and figure out what kind of mess there was. Maybe something was reprocessed, redone, something like that. And then we can take our date field also, like the second example I was talking about. So if we want to add like min and max, right? So let's do date setting, and we'll do min, and this one we are going to do max, and that probably doesn't belong on this thing here. Let's do a quick format to make sure we have it as date time. So we're gonna go to time. Perfect. Okay, and so now, is that right? That doesn't seem right. Let's format that and pick something like this. There you go, that's better. So now we have report of a date range per custodian, right? So if something wasn't collected, we can see like, oh, how come this ends on this year or this month, right? Maybe we need to go back. But now we were able to generate this report on data that the duplication already ran on. Anyway, that's kind of my explanation of what's going on here. I'm going to take this ReDuplicator utility, put it on my website, #legal, completely for free for you to download and tell me what you think. If you think this is useless and it's not needed because of some other reason and I wrote it for nothing, tell me about it. I don't mind hearing about that. Tell me the other way you would do similar report, or perhaps you use a new review system that's better and does allow you to do this. Anyway, that's it for this tip. I will see you in the next video.